Welcome. I'm Brad Bonkowski, Carson City Supervisor for Ward 2, and this is It's Your City. Today is March 4th, 5th. The board meeting just ended just a few minutes ago, and so I'll review what we covered today, starting with this morning, where we heard two applications for liquor licenses for Siam Classic Thai Cuisine down on Cochise Drive, and also for Richard Tran for Carson Best Pho, which is DBA Viet Pho on Highway 50 East at 444 East William Street. Both of those liquor license applications were approved. We then adjourned as the Liquor and Entertainment Board and reconvened as the Board of Supervisors, and we were given a presentation on noxious weeds and noxious weed control for Carson City by Jamie Greer with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. And just so the public is aware, we have programs through different agencies to try to address invasive weeds in the Carson City area, and that's funded through various grants. Carson Water Subconservancy, Department of Agriculture, and Nevada Department of Environmental Protection all provide grant monies for us to stay abreast and ahead of weed invasions. So that was an informative discussion. There was not an action item, so we didn't take any action. We just had the update. After that, we heard a request from Alternative Sentencing to reclassify a technician position, so basically a desk position in the office, to an officer position who would have the ability to go out and do field work and issue arrest warrants. So we would be transitioning this position from a very limited position as far as duties are concerned to a position that can encompass basically a full range of items. And there is an economic impact to that. For next fiscal year, it would be an increase to the alternative sentencing budget of approximately $20,000. But considering the workload that alternative sentencing has to handle and the limited amount of staff that they have, it's definitely money well spent. We also heard an item to approve a contract for a special inspector on the MAC facility, the Multi-Purpose Athletic Center. So as Darren Schultz, the head of Public Works, eloquently put it this morning, if you think of Carson City Building Department as the judge, the special inspector would be the expert witness. So we hired the expert witness to evaluate the work done by the contractor that has been hired to construct the facility, and the special inspector, in this case, would then report back to Carson City Building Department on the quality and adequacy of the work being done by the contractor. It wouldn't be appropriate to include this contract under the construction contract for the MAC, the $7.7 million contract that was awarded to Miles Construction, because they would then be overseeing the very inspector that we're relying on to evaluate their work. So this is a contract that's separate from the construction contract and is part of what we would call the soft costs on the project, which is approximately $600,000 in addition to the $7.7 million for the construction. So the complete budget for the MAC facility is the $8.3 million, and this is part of the $600,000 in soft costs, and that contract was also approved. We also approved a contract for FAR Construction to recoat one of the water tanks, the Ash Canyon water tank. So they strip off the coating on the metal tank because metal that holds water tends to rust. So we go in and completely refurbish the tank inside and out and recoat it to protect it. That contract was for $212,786 plus some alternative contract amounts of additional $35,000. And that was approved, and that work should be done approximately around the beginning of June, so it doesn't impact our ability to provide water to the citizens of Carson City when we start getting into summer and our water usage increases. We also reapproved a contract for a jail interlock system at the jail. We approved this contract directly with the vendor previously, and then after we approved the contract here at the board, there was some items in the language of the contract that we could not agree with the vendor on. So we now have used a joiner contract. It was a contract that was negotiated with this vendor by Washoe County, and we've joined in that contract to provide that service. So the scope of work hasn't changed on this contract. The amount of the contract hasn't changed. Only the document that we're using to enable that work to be done has changed, and that was approved today. We also heard a discussion on the community source water protection plan for the public water system in Carson City, and we passed a resolution to adopt that plan. This plan protects the water sources that Carson City uses for the public water system, and that includes both groundwater as well as surface water. Surface water mainly coming from the canyons to the west, Kings Canyon, Ash Canyon, and then groundwater, including municipal wells. So this is an action plan to protect those water sources for our citizens, not only from pollution but from other issues that could harm our water source. Then after that, we adopted a resolution to issue $18 million worth of sewer bonds, and we'd received some public input from this, and there was some concern from people in the public that this was an additional expense being incurred at the sewage treatment plant, and that is not the case. The rate increase plan that we implemented last year and the facility upgrade plan that we approved included the upgrades being funded by this $18 million bond issuance. It's just that there is a process that we must go through to implement and fund these upgrades, and so this is just the portion of that plan that is the actual bond issuance. So we approve the plan, we design it, we get the cost estimates, then we have to approve the funding source for the bond payments, then we approve the actual bond issuance, then we would sell the bonds, put the money in the bank, and then we have the ability to actually pay for the upgrades. So that's the Cliff Note version of how that process works. This was just one step in that process. It does not involve any additional increases or expenditures for the upgrades that have been approved for the wastewater treatment facility. We also heard a discussion from the Capital City Arts Initiative on how they're going to display public art, and including the community center. Here in the room where I am now, there's now an artist exhibit of pieces along the walls, and I think also in the lobby, so the public can see these, and these items are also for sale. So for anyone out in the public, if you'd like to come down to the community center and take a look at the public art display that's here, and if there are any of these pieces that you like and would like to acquire, there's information on the wall by each piece that would let you know what the price of that piece is, and then you can acquire that. We then went to a second reading on a bill and ordinance to change the zoning of a property located at 1001 Mountain Street, and 608 and 610 West Washington Street to change the zoning to multifamily apartment so that the property, which is owned by Carson Tahoe Hospital, can be used for a congregate care facility. And they need the multifamily apartment zoning to be able to move forward with that use. So that was the second reading, so that zoning change will now take effect. After that, we handled what was one of the more difficult parts of our day, which was to fund grant applications, both community support service grant funding as well as community development block grant funding. And so we approved $72,200 in community support services grant funds for youth services. We approved an additional $185,000 in community support grant services for other nonprofits like Ron Woods, Fish, many others, all very worthy causes. And we also approved public facility grants through the Community Development Block grant funding, and that portion of the funding, which was $237,254, went to Public Works Department in the amount of $190,000 and change, which will fund replacing sidewalks and ADA ramps, and then $46,000 to the Carson City School District to help build a on-campus medical facility for youth. So we spent almost 2 hours on those items, and that is a very difficult one because there are many, many wonderful nonprofits that do work in the city that need funding to provide good programs to our citizens, and we do not have enough money to fund all the programs. So we have to make decisions on who gets money and what programs we can fund. Over the course of the next year, we're going to make an attempt to tighten up the application and tighten up the procedures regarding how we give out this money to try to make it a little more fair and to also help us make decisions when we literally get requests for twice as much money as we actually have to give out. So after we got through that process, we had our lunch break. When we came back from the lunch break, we had committee appointments, and we appointed Danielle Cook and Barbara Dineo to the Carson City Cultural Commission. Those terms, I don't remember, 3-year terms for both those. And then we appointed 2 members to the Carson City Open Space Advisory Committee. Bruce Scott will be returning to that committee as the chair. And then we also appointed Alan Welsh to that committee. And we had very good applicants for both of those committees. And that continues to be one of the hardest decisions that we make when we have 3, 4, 5 applicants for each slot that's available, and we have to choose between those qualified applicants. So that wrapped up our day. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.